Me and my little brother Owen were born 11 months apart, and we have grown up pretty much joined by the hip. It was evident when we were from when we were kids that we were two different personalities. I searched for social interaction a lot more, and he was much more reserved. Well, as a kid, I never really noticed Owen as being different, so to speak. So for example, when I'm out playing with my cousins, when they come to visit, I'd be there socialising with them, playing with them, and Owen would always be on his own, and Owen would stim, and Owen would be out of the group. I'd never consider it as different. I just considered his actions and his mannerisms as literally just an extension of his personality. I've never considered it as something specifically different. I've just always considered it as just part of who he was.
For the last 7 months, I have been on a journey to learn about autism, the neurological condition that Owen has. I've spoken to people who experience it every day, learning more about my brother and his condition as a whole from these people letting me into their lives. Although I've always loved Owen, understanding his autism properly is something I've always struggled with. I wanted to feel more informed and closer to my brother before I made my move to university. And this is how it all went. I began my journey by getting in touch with Lowry, an autistic public speaker who works to educate others about the condition. He invited me along to one of his talks in a local college, where he speaks to students regarding the myths surrounding autism. He then agreed to talk to me personally about his experiences afterwards.
My name is Lowry, and I am on the autistic spectrum, and I give talks on the subject of autism. Today I'm going to be giving a talk on the myths of autism. Well, actually it was when I was 11 years old when I first found out I had autism. I was actually in hospital with an asthma attack, and these doctors and nurses kept on coming up to my mum, who was with me at the hospital, and asking her all these questions about me. And they kept on they got the sheet of paper, and they sort of wrote down all these bits and pieces of information, and my mum kept on spelling out these letters. The letters were AUTISM, but I kept on wondering about this AUTISM, and eventually I decided to ask her what it was. What is this AUTISM that you keep on talking about? I asked her, and she told me that it spelled autism.
How did that make you feel when you found out that you had AUTISM? You had autism.
I'd have said I kind of had mixed feelings about it, I'd say. On one hand, it explained a lot. Because there were quite a lot of things which didn't make sense to me. I knew I was different. I knew I found a lot of things harder than what other children did. But at the same time, I wasn't fully accepting of it, because I had just been told that basically I had difficulties that other people didn't have. That wasn't such good news to hear, really. I felt like I had a lot of I felt like there was something wrong with me, that I had a disability, I wasn't normal, essentially. And that can't be a good thing. They were basically a lot of the thoughts that I had. I kind of see a lot of people with autism as doing sort of similar things to what other people do, but differently. If you take, say, a Mac and a Windows PC. This is an example I've heard. Say an Apple Mac. Both of them do pretty similar things, but they both do them in completely different ways. And in some ways, the Apple Mac may do better than the PC, and in other ways, the PC will probably do better than the Apple Mac. I had therapy for a number of years. I found that extremely exhausting and difficult, but I feel like I'm actually happier as a result of having it, because I feel like I've learned a lot. People often have the wrong idea of what autism is. They have an image of autism in their head, which isn't quite like, you know, what autism is. I mean, autism is a very individual condition, and even I found myself actually becoming stereotyped. Even I found myself stereotyping. I've started like looking at people for, oh, there's no way they're autistic, and it turns out they are, you know. Okay, now here's a quote. Somebody said at one of my talks, people with autism always look odd. But you look normal to me, you don't look odd at all. Okay, so, if I don't look autistic, then what exactly is an autistic person supposed to look like? Like, what exactly does autism actually look like? I mean, is there a physical look to autism? Am I supposed to have like an extra long nose? Am I supposed to have like an extra wide jaw if I have autism? What exactly am I supposed to look like if I don't look autistic? People with autism don't look especially different from other people. They actually, in fact, autism is a hidden disability, so you can't usually tell that someone has it just by looking at them. Or at least not by their physical look anyway, generally speaking. People with autism will look like anybody.
He was diagnosed with classic autism by the doctor. My mum and dad were told that Owen would probably never speak a word in his life, and I don't ever remember being told that my brother was autistic. It only really occurred to me that something was different necessarily about my brother when he didn't join me in school. You'd see all of these, well, you'd see siblings, you know, you'd get that, like, you know, the older brothers, like the brothers or the brother and sisters through school. And I was always kind of confused as to why my brother never joined me. I'd be there and I'd be like, when is he joining me in school? You know what I mean? I'd look forward to it, but it just didn't happen. And then eventually he got ABA therapy shortly after he was diagnosed. ABA therapy, I mean, these therapists were around Monday to Friday, 9 till 5, and they were wonderful with me, but you know, it was intense. It was intense sessions with Owen all week, and it must have been so tedious for him. I must say, when I come home from school, they did used to, you know, invite me to join in group sessions to help Owen's development, but also I think part of it was to, well, more so like not leave me feeling left out, which I really appreciated as a kid. It would help develop his speech, and it would help develop his like following of instructions and understanding of social aspects. He's got severe learning difficulties, so when you're teaching a 4 or 5-year-old, you know, or well, a 3-year-old actually at the time, you're teaching him like the very basics, and then you move on up there, and it goes to points of teaching him animals and noises and body parts, like point to your nose and all that sort of thing. I was too young to recognise his condition. I never really got, when I was a kid, why he had this attention, this special attention.
I took my curiosity down to South England to meet Jake Cartwright, another autistic individual who was willing to help me with understanding the condition more. I was hoping to ask him about stimming in particular, as it is something I've seen Owen do since as early as I can remember, and I have always been curious as to what it is and why he does it.
When I first found out I was autistic, I was 14 when my parents told me and took me to a psychiatrist or something.
Okay, so growing up with autism, how was that for you? I'm talking like through school, family life, you know.
Through life?
Yeah, in general.
It was very, very tough, to be honest. As well as I had a loving family around me, it's just everyone on the outside, you know, people are so blinded by the normal side of life, that they just can't see what's going on even in here or how an autistic person's feeling. That's another thing about the part of autism, is the anxiety and fear.
How was that for you growing up?
It was very scary, I'm not going to lie, and it was also tough because when an autistic person is born, unlike a neurotypical person, in other words a normal person, normal people are born with like the basic knowledge of the right and wrong situations. So if you got told off by your mum and said that's naughty, don't do that again, then once or twice you pick it up. But for an autistic person, you have to, it's like starting from a really big beginning of scratch. So you're born without the basic knowledge and the right and wrong situations, and you haven't really got the mental side to go, oh, that's wrong, or oh, that's right. But with autism, you feel a lot more emotions, something like how an animal would feel, like, oh, I've got to eat, or I've got to hunt, or I'm angry, or I'm happy.
So, something that I've seen countless times growing up with my brother is him stimming. So, my brother, for example, if we're driving in the car and there's like we're passing fast lines, he like flaps his arms and he's like stimming off it, and he loves it. He's like laughing his head off, right? Or he could stim off. Sometimes I've seen him just like stimming and looking into like thin air. So I don't know if he's stimming off something physical like there, or if it's like something he's thinking of. You know, and it's normally that like it's like that hand movement like sort of thing that he does. But I've never really got why he's what not causes, but what motivates him to stim. You know, what is stimming? I've never really fully. So could you tell me a bit about it?
Stimming is basically he's going into the autistic world, so into his very own world. So I don't know exactly what he could be thinking, and you wouldn't know exactly what I'd be thinking, but you'd be off in your little world, you'd be thinking about certain memories, good or bad, or a certain show on the television that you'd like to be in, or that you were a part of, or some crazy adventure by yourself in your own world in a different location, or almost an environment that you're not familiar with. But it's almost like the autistic world is almost like it's a dream world, basically, where they all go off in their own little worlds, where it's like I've seen lots of stimmings over my autistic years at school. There are some that sometimes bite their hand and go
Like actually bite their hand?
Yeah, actually bite their hand, and he'd have a like really big bruise or scar as if someone's actually really bit him or hurt him. Or or for the most common part of autism is the chicken walk, like while waving their hands.
The stims that Jake was showing me were very recognisable, as Owen executes variations of them daily.
There's also sometimes the tap. And their eyes sort of go very wary, or as if they're staring at something, almost as if into an abyss or something. Mentally there's something, I wouldn't say wrong, but not quite right. Something that doesn't say click in the mind, or doesn't work the gears where the mind develops and learns, like you're going first gear, this is the slowest pace. Second gear, you're picking up. Third, you're almost stuck, but you can't get to the next stage because your mind has either missed a gear, or it can't seem to get out of that stuck gear, and you can't almost think as you do it.
So do you stim? Do you still stim?
To be very honest, I still do, but out of everybody else's sight and out of everybody's eye, because I don't want them to treat me different, or I don't want them to think that I'm different or an individual because the way I was born, and because people hate what they don't understand, and they're quick to just look at you like you're cancer or like you're broken or you can be used to an advantage of theirs.
Why do you stim?
Because I'm still autistic as well as I am neurotypical, I still have moments where I go into the autistic world, and it's almost like when an autistic person needs a high to go on, like a high level of happiness or anger or emotion. It just makes me, it almost clicks all my gears into like higher pace and sometimes a better thinking or almost a better understanding of why you're angry, why you're happy, or why this bad situation happens, why I did this. And you're just thinking about it constantly.
In 2002, mine and Owen's parents split up for unrelated reasons. So this like resulted in us moving away. So we went to live with our mum, and Dad would see us on the weekends. You know, I'd be in school until a certain amount of time, and then Dad would come home from work, and I'd spend that with Dad. And then Mum obviously would focus mainly on Owen because he needed the attention. I never got that. Dad wasn't there like keeping me happy because I loved the attention. I loved the attention from my dad. So my mum was stretched out more, I guess, because she had to look after Owen full time, and I wasn't getting that attention that I normally had off my dad. Because I was young, I didn't really like understand why my mum had to dedicate so much time to my brother. I never noticed it as a kid when our parents were together because I was satisfied with the attention and that I got from Dad. However, when there was that split, it was jealousy because I was so misunderstood. So I was jealous to an extent of my brother, and I almost classed it as favoritism as a child, and that almost, I think that turned into resentment in a way.
Jake and Alex can both be found on the other end of the autistic spectrum to my brother. The autistic spectrum itself is massive, with an estimated 1 out of every 100 of us being on it. That's approximately 70 million people worldwide. Although they are both higher functioning individuals on the spectrum, Alex and Jake differ due to Jake being diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome. People with Asperger's do try and socialise amongst groups. However, they may struggle fitting into social norms and conversation. Alex Lowry may share some traits with Jake. However, his autism is something that tends to regress him and other autistic individuals away from social contact into more personal space. In an effort to explore the community and autistic individuals more like Owen, I was heading to meet up with Brenda Jones, a mother whose son, Dewi, is very similar to my brother in current age and development. Unfortunately, I would not be meeting Dewi today as he was attending college.
Okay.
Hello.
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 Hi. Nice to meet you.
Coming in?
Yes,
Think
please.
better. Come on then.
Right, go on, ladies first.
He was diagnosed around 4 years old, which is what they usually do. There was a bit of a misdiagnosis because the clinical psychologist said he wasn't autistic, but wrote down in the report that he was, which was a little bit unfortunate because we lost about 6 months of, when we could have done something. How did I feel about the misdiagnosis? I was livid. It's not very much you can do about it though, but it was very, very unfortunate because with autism, what you do early on is really important. It just made me more determined actually to fight all the time. He's very, very practical. His big problem is language. Something is lost there. He understands a lot. He's very, very practical. He's quite very, very able with his hands. He can help build sheds, paint, anything like that. He's doing land-based studies, which means everything from recycling to anything that needs doing on the grounds. woodwork is his strong point. He's very, very good at that. Those are the types of things he's doing. He loves it there.
Respite, what does respite consist of?
It was a bit of an argument between us and County. Before Dewi went off to college, we wanted him to go into the residential part just one evening a week in school, just so that he could have practice of doing things for himself instead of me doing everything for him. And they weren't really letting us do it. So the social worker, who was very, very good, came up with a family in Prestatyn, and he went to stay with them, just for weekends.
I'm just curious, did you have to pay for Dewi's ABA therapy?
No.
No, right.
No, we got county funding. People who have paid for it, really, it's a matter of taking out a second mortgage. It's very, very expensive.
I was curious as to if TV and film at all help his language, because my brother, he's classically autistic, and he's developed his language from watching like Looney Tunes, Thomas the Tank and that with subtitles.
Right.
And that's developed his language. I was wondering if it's the same for Dewi.
You mentioned Looney Tunes and Thomas the Tank. Yeah, they're on all the time. So are other things. See, there's a double problem of Welsh and English there as well. He will say some things that are totally unexpected, which is picked up from films. It hasn't helped his language, though, I shouldn't think. He picks up things, and it's like he can recognise a word. I don't know if he reads it, he recognises it. And it's the same with words, he will use them. For instance, somebody brought him a present once, English family, sitting on the floor, and he got given it, and it was obviously one of those tins with sweets, the round ones. And he was sitting in the middle of the floor like that, and he just went, "For me? Yes!" And I thought, where did he get that? No idea where he got it from. But it's a film of some kind.
Have you experienced meltdowns with Dewi?
Nothing major. He's lost his temper. It was getting out to the stage where we could tell him and you could physically stop him from doing something. He's big now, he's bigger than me, he's 20 years old, for goodness sake. And after a while, you found out that you had to use different strategies with him, but he doesn't have serious meltdowns. No, he doesn't.
I wanted to talk about the awareness within society. Do you believe enough is done to educate maybe the younger generations on conditions like autism?
Dewi, as you probably know, was in mainstream primary. Everybody who knew Dewi through school, they're okay with him. But people staring, yes, it is a nuisance. It's a horrible thing to do. But we just sort of include him in everything we do, so people have got to lump him, really. Some children can't cope in mainstream schools, obviously, in which case other people in society don't get to see them, don't see the behaviours and so on. See, we had the headmaster in Dewi school, I just can't believe what he said to me. He said, how are the school going to change now to adapt for Dewi? Not how is Dewi going to change to adapt to the school. That what should we do now? How are we going to change? And you feel, you couldn't wish for anything more than that. What he did actually was he got the ABA consultant and all the therapists to come to school in one of the staff meetings and train the whole lot of them, which is quite incredible, really. Not many, hardly anybody would do that.
Me and my production crew were invited to attend a sponsored walk held by Dewi's College. We arrived having raised over £300, money that will go towards refurbishment of accommodation and new opportunities for Dewi and his fellow students. It was lovely meeting Dewi. However, I decided it was best to leave him and his mum spend some time together during the walk.
We moved away and the parents split. Owen's ABA therapy came to a close. So he went into an assessment centre for 18 months. And then after he went into the assessment centre, he then went into education. It was a special needs school. And I think he honestly really enjoyed the school when he first went. I think he really enjoyed it. I think it was good. Mum decided it was the right time to start integrating him with other children, you know, and help him develop like that more socially, which I can agree with. He was naughty in school, like not naughty, but he was a bit of a rascal. He wouldn't even realise it though. I mean, sometimes he would be naughty. I mean, he'd steal like books and videos, like from the school, and we'd have to return them, apologising. However, there'd be like times we'd get phone calls home, and Owen has hacked into the security system of the school, and we're getting phone calls back, and we're not believing what we're hearing. He is so talented on a computer. My brother can paint, you know, using like the painting software. He can paint pictures, and he's brilliant. He's absolutely brilliant, and you don't think that he's able to do it, but he is. And I caught him doing it. He doesn't make a show of it, but I caught him doing it, and I was like, oh my god, these are amazing. So I looked onto his computer and found like pictures where I'm just mind blown at how clever he is for drawing them. We came across YouTube emails. My mum was quite confused, and it turns out Owen had signed up using her email account to YouTube and created an account. And he was commenting. We could see all his comments, and he was posting on like Super Mario Brothers, like, you know, gaming videos, and he was putting in requests for new videos. And the grammar was amazing. It was perfect. It was absolutely perfect. You know, all the punctuation, everything's there. And I'm just thinking, he knows perfectly well how to use it, and he can write perfectly. But then when it comes to processing it and speaking, he can't. He struggles with that.
Owen, can Owen wink like this? Try, go on. Yeah, there you go. Look, so Owen looks at me and closes one eye.
This is one eye.
Yeah. There you go. Give a wink to the camera. Go on. Yeah, high five. Lesson number 2. Can Owen click his fingers? Let's try again. It's like that. Fingers like that. You'll get it. Can I have a kiss? Love you, buddy. I headed to meet Jake Smith, a young, classically autistic boy with almost non-existent verbal capacity. Whilst there, I was going to sit down with his mum and discuss the experiences they share at home and in the public eye.
This is the right house. I am a genius.
Hi.
Oh my god, I actually got the right house.
What?
I haven't been here like in years.
Oh, you haven't been knocking on other people's doors?
No, I haven't.
Oh,
This
good.
is first guest. Oh, I am so...
He's just had a bender, so I'm hoping he'll be alright.
Alright, okay.
Touch wood, you know, he's going to be
Yeah.
okay. Do you want to come in?
Awesome, yeah.
Catherine. Hi. Say hello.
Hey, you alright, buddy?
Listen, Jake.
Tom. His dad's name is Tom, so I'm not sure if he got confused. Look, this one. Geraint.
Hey, yeah.
Oh, he's doing a bit of waving.
Hello.
Come on then, this way. Good boy. It's not too much for, you know, it's not like his space.
Yeah,
It's
I
not
didn't
controlling
want to
like that at all, or nothing like
overpower,
that.
didn't want anything.
No, he's fine. That's not too bad, but... And yet other situations he can be. You just don't know what the trigger is, do you?
Yeah.
You don't. If you know what the trigger is, you can help him, but because he doesn't speak. But I've heard that a lot of autistic children have meltdowns, and even though they speak, the mums still don't know because they can't tell them. You can't explain what it is.
Is the Does he have a way of communicating? Is there like any like picture cards or texts?
Yeah, he's got his book behind you where pet board, so inside.
Oh, is it this one?
Yeah, do you want to get it down?
Yeah, okay.
So he will do, like today he's at home with Mum and Lydia. That's what he's doing today. We're staying at home. He's got a big thing. Mondays, he doesn't do Mondays. He doesn't like Mondays. You say it's Monday today, and we'll put.
I thought when he said, "Oh, it's Monday today," we opened it. It was just black. I was like, "Oh right."
yeah, doesn't do Mondays. We will put. He's hang on. He's having some toast, and he's going on the bus to school. He will remove the bus and the school, because that's what he's doing and that's what he's finished, and he'll put them on the back and just go, I'll take this one.
I'll take the toast. You can
Forget the rest. I'm not doing it. But he works really well with photos. Taking photos of the fun house, taking photos of Team Hour. They're all on their tablet. This is where we're going. He loves certain places. But then you think we're going to go somewhere that he really enjoys. You get there and she's on the floor. So you think, well, what don't you like about here today? It's almost like, it's frustrating. And it's really hard, especially when you get up in the morning. We're all super positive. We're all, yeah, let's go for a walk. We're going out. This is where we're going. He's making all his noises. Throat noises signal that he's excited. So brilliant. Get his bag, get in the car, get there, and he's like throwing a bender. And then we're like, it puts a dampener on your day. It really, really puts you on a downer. But then he can snap out of it, but you're still feeling the effects of how it was.
Yeah, like
they forget really quickly, don't they?
Yeah,
and they seem to just switch, move on. I struggle with that. So, but then I have to force myself out of it and be super, this is great, this is brilliant. Even though I'm like, oh, for God's sake, he's done it again, kind of thing. Similar to Monday mornings, you say it's Monday, you're having some toast and you're going to school on the bus. He will scream for an hour and a half. Scream.
Just like...
I don't do, he's like, I'm not going, it's Monday, I'm not going, I'm not. Once he's on the bus, he's fine. But it's that hour and a half, and he'll go on and on and on and on. He's done it a couple of times before where behavioural, he's made himself poorly. He's give himself a temperature. He's convinced me he's poorly. And then after 8 o'clock, he's running around happy. Because you automatically think, because he can't speak, he's not thinking the way he should do.
Yeah.
And it's mean really, because he does understand, and then it's 8 o'clock, he's bouncing around really happy, and I'm like, oh, it's because I give him Calpol. And then I'm thinking, no. But the school are really good. They say, unless he's got sickness or diarrhoea, get him in. They want him to have that routine. And they said if he comes in and we find he's poorly, he will be sent back home. So I think I'm just a bit soft.
Like it must take your attention constantly. He needs constant supervision.
Yeah,
so.
You can't just think, oh, we'll just pop out, or we'll just do this. Because when he didn't let people in the house, he also wouldn't let me leave the house.
That must have been quite isolating.
So he wouldn't let you peg washing out. You're not allowed to go in the garden. You're not allowed to go. And I'm quite conscious of other people hearing it. I get a bit... If he has a meltdown, I'll close all the windows. It's like I don't want people to hear it, and I want him to be quiet. I don't want... Because my next door neighbour, I've lived here for 6 years, nearly 7 years. And Jake's like just turned 5, and she said the other day that's the first time I've seen him smiling and not crying.
That's quite a horrible thing to say, really, isn't it?
No, it's almost like they only see him as this crying child, don't they?
But they don't see him
No.
the happier side of
No.
it.
like today, where he's running around, where he's happy. They don't see that. They just see it, the boy that's constantly having a meltdown. You can't walk past the shop. If you go out the house, you can't turn right. You can't go that way.
Say like at the end of your driveway.
Yeah, if you go out that gate, you can't go up that road. You have to go left. And when you get to the top of the road, you can't turn left. So you go out the gate, you can't turn right. Top of the road, you can't turn left. You have to go down the road. You can't pass the shop. He has to run around the shop twice. So then
As in like go in the shop?
Go in the shop and run round. And I open the door and go, "Hi, Jake's here." And they go, "Okay then." And he runs around the shop. Comes out of the shop. Then you have to go to the doctor's. And if you want to go to the spa, he has to run around the doctor's a few times before you can go to the spa. But you have to go in the doctor's door and come out the chemist's door to go to the spa. If you go in the doctor's door and come out the doctor's door, we have to go home. Yeah. When you go in the spa, you have to go down the first aisle, skip the second and go up the third. Heaven's a bit... I mean, if you try to go down the second aisle, Lord help you. It's the older generation that are worse. You tend to go to places and you'll bump into somebody who'll go, "Oh, my little brother's autistic." And they'll want to walk round with Jake. Or my cousin. They're always... Everybody knows somebody now that's autistic, don't they? It was so unheard of 20 years ago.
I got a quote here. I just wanted to know your opinion on it.
Okay.
Okay, so this is a quote I never actually asked, but the quote says, "I asked a mother the other day, what is the hardest part of having a child with autism? And before I could finish the question, she simply replied, other people."
Yeah. Bob on.
Would you say that's a good summary?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Could you,
God, that ice cream. Yeah. Because if you would have asked me that question, I would have struggled a bit. Thinking, what? Because there's all sorts of parts that can be an issue, and yet any other day they can be really good.
As my time filming was coming to an end, I decided to visit Alex Lowry at his home. How's everything been since we last met?
It's been going pretty well, I'd say, overall. Because I have recently found out that I have, as well as autism, I also have attention deficit hyperactivity disorder and dyspraxia.
Wow, how did that feel being diagnosed with them? Like, how did you take that?
I'd say, I was actually quite positive about it because I felt like I understood myself much better. I've mostly just put it all down to autism, all these other things, but I did know that I seem to have a hard time sitting still. Like I can hardly sit still to save my life. And I often don't have an off switch on things. I tend to really go for it all the time, if you get what I'm saying. I tend to walk extremely fast. I tend to talk rather loud.
I'm pretty sure I read somewhere, I could be wrong though, that's like conditions like ADHD are more prominent in autistic individuals.
Yes.
Yes.
It's quite common. It is quite common for them to come together, actually. In fact, I think from what I see, a lot of people with autism in general seem to actually be able to be diagnosed with at least one other thing.
Have you had many of those experiences before? And if you have, could you talk me through some of them?
Yeah. Well, I'll start by saying, as a child, I had serious sensory issues. Like basically going into shops was a horrifying experience because the pop music was just too loud and there were way too many people and the lights on the ceiling were really bright and would really hurt my eyes. And basically being around people in general was horrifying. And I was also sensitive to taste, like there were only set foods I'd eat, and there were only set clothes which I'd wear, like loose jogging trousers and t-shirts. Out of the side of that, I'd refuse to wear anything else. But now I still have sensory issues, maybe not to quite the same extent, but in certain ways I do still have them. I don't really like physical contact. I don't like to be touched. I'd say touch is probably my most sensitive. I'm most hypersensitive to touch, I'd say. I can cope with a handshake, but not much more than that. And also there's certain things which I don't like touching as well. Like I don't like the feel of sand because it's like it's rough and it's just irritating all the time. And say like Play-Doh. Obviously I don't use that. But still, I hate the feeling of it. It's just really irritating and dry.
So yeah, sensory issues. Would you say that you've learned to deal with them better as you've got older, or would you say that they've calmed down, like as you've got older?
I think both are true to a certain extent. I'd say. Basically, I feel like being exposed to them more gradually. Like as a child, I think I was very gradually exposed to, say the things which I was afraid of. So I gradually just got used. I kind of just adjusted to them to the point where they didn't bother me as much. Certain issues are still big issues. Yeah. So I'd say probably both. I'd say probably there's truth to both.
As a child, then, did you ever get like tipped over the edge with your sensory? Sensitivity. Did that ever like tip you over the edge to go into like maybe a meltdown?
Oh yeah. It would result in extreme meltdowns. Basically, I'd be on the floor. I'd be screaming. Like if I was in a shop, I'd just be screaming to get out. As a young child, basically, I was spending a lot of my life was spent screaming, to tell you the truth, because I just found the world horrifying.
Meltdowns. As a kid, like I've always wondered because my brother. He had plenty, especially going through puberty. Would you remember, like, say you had a meltdown, would you like black out, or would you remember like what happened during the meltdown, and then like how does it feel like after?
I think I probably wouldn't remember anything from it, to tell you the truth. Like when I'm asked how does meltdown feel, I can't really explain it because I basically it's gone from. I don't really remember like how I felt during it at all. I can't really remember how I felt afterwards as a child, but I do know that I do still get them occasionally now. I mean, generally I'm not screaming, but I can still be in quite a state. But they very, very rarely. I have a lot of anxiety, but I'm rarely quite at that level. But I'd say when I have been generally just being able to talk through what it was that made me upset, I'd say probably helps me to feel better. Then I'd say that helps me to rationalise.
You've got a good set of language skills. You've got good communication. I mean, you do talks all over the country now, so you're a very good speaker and you're very good at explaining things. Like, do you ever feel that people can? This goes for other higher functioning autistic individuals as well. Do you ever feel that people can overlook your autism due to your language, and then therefore not try to accommodate any challenges that you may face?
Oh, absolutely. There have been many cases actually when people have said, because I seem to be able to talk, be able to explain myself well enough, or I can explain what kind of difficulties I have, they tend to sometimes they look at, because I'm talking so well, they'll look at me and tend to think, oh, you don't seem to have anything wrong with you, you look normal. I've actually, there's this video on YouTube, which was like, I think it was like 4 years ago now. I was asked questions, and basically I keep on getting these comments saying, oh, why do people who are normal claim to be autistic all the time? He's obviously not autistic. People like me tend to have, say, strong points and low points. Like we can have things which we're really good at and things which we really struggle with. And the fact that I might look normal, I think can mislead people to thinking that there's basically hardly anything. I've got hardly any issues. When in reality, I have actually got a lot of problems which people may not necessarily see.
Yeah, people often say that autism is an invisible condition, which I would wholeheartedly agree with. And do you think that just adds to the whole lack of understanding that society has about the condition?
Yeah, because it's not a condition that you can see. It can be very hard to tell. In fact, you did mention the stimming before. If they see someone who doesn't look like they've got a disability stimming, they are likely just they could just become, say, scared or thinking, oh, what is he doing, or thinking, what is he doing? That's a bit strange, or maybe perhaps they think that there's some kind of seizure going on, perhaps, or something. I remember this bloke thought I was having a seizure when I was 15 and stimming. So I think there can often be a lot of misunderstanding going on. When autism does actually come out in a person, it can just come across as it can just come out the wrong way. I mean, people like me who know a lot about autism, I actually do tend to notice it in people. Not every time, there are exceptions, but generally speaking, I can pick it up.
Can you explain what is stimming, and then why do individuals with autism stim?
It's the stereotypical movements, like, say, hand flapping or rocking back and forth, or squeezing hands together or pacing. These movements, like that, I think everybody stims, to say the truth, and this includes everybody, not just those in the autistic spectrum. But most people, say, I'm pretty sure, has anyone, say, tapped their foot, or say, twiddled with the hair a bit, or bitten their nails, perhaps. Well, these are all stims. It's just, now this is the same for a person who's on the autistic spectrum. It's far more exaggerated. Like, they tend to have much more exaggerated stimming, and that tends to be why it sticks out to other people. But basically, as for why they stim, well, I can't speak for everybody. But I do know that for me personally, it's often part of the way in which I kind of process past events. I tend to be when I'm stimming, I tend to be going deep into my own thoughts, essentially. Or I also stim when I'm getting excited about something. Now, it's actually a myth to believe that if you're stimming, that means you're stressed. That's definitely, well, at least obviously it might be true for some, but it's definitely not the case for everyone. I tend, in fact, for me, stimming can be a way of coping with being stressed. It can be a way of coping with it, but doing it doesn't automatically mean I'm stressed. That's definitely a misconception.
Awesome. I think that's it. Yeah. I think that's it. So yeah, I'd say that's. So thank you very much.
Thank you
for the interview. That's absolutely awesome.
When me and Owen reached our teenage years, our relationship almost completely disappeared. I couldn't enter a room with Owen in it without him getting severely agitated and shouting. I couldn't step inside the same four walls as him without him kicking off, right? And if I was there for too long, it would trigger him into meltdown. But I couldn't comprehend, I couldn't deal with the fact that my brother hated me, and I didn't have a clue why. That whole situation just really dragged the whole atmosphere of the house down. We were just a split up atmosphere. We were a split up family in that house at the time. But I didn't cater to it. I didn't try and work to what he needed. It was a mystery to me, and my mum would try and explain, but it'd never give me any closure on it. It'd never give me any closure whatsoever. Owen was very aggressive during puberty. It made it a lot harder for us to go out anywhere. You'd go into meltdowns, and I'd sometimes be the cause of them, and I wouldn't even realise it. And he'd be violent, towards me and my mum. The worst times to have a meltdown, I think, is when we're out in public, because in the house you've got the privacy to weather the storm and let him calm down, and we get around it. Now, he's had meltdowns when we've been shopping and all that, and I tell you now, it's hell. It's living hell, because autism has no physical features about it, so they overlook his condition because he's got no physical features. So I mean, if we're a local, for example, at the shop, so the staff might recognize it, but customers and that don't. They might not recognize him at all, and to them it just looks like a normal teenage kid is losing his mind, just going nuts and kicking off and being naughty, where in fact, the world is terrifying him. I don't. When you're, people overlook his condition and expect him to behave a lot differently, and quite frankly, you ain't gonna get that. Because I was young, my mum would insist that I come along shopping as well, and he hated my presence, so I didn't help. So I'd have to go along, even though it'd always result in him being agitated throughout the shopping thing. And there's kids in the shop, and when he's having a meltdown, it's scary to see. And people just stare, and you're looking for help, and people are just staring, but they have no idea how to help you out. You can't calm him down. You have to weather the storm, because when he's gone into meltdown, he's gone then. He's gone. I don't know where he's gone. He's gone when he's in meltdown, and you cannot get through to him until he calms down. Yeah, the whole shopping scenarios, so to speak, send my mum's anxiety mainly through the roof, and she's currently recovering from that. But that was tough. September 2009, I left home. I left home on my own accord, and I went to live with my dad. The home, like I was saying, the atmosphere and the tension in the house was awful. I couldn't bond with him. He didn't want anything to do with me, and the whole arguments and the atmosphere and that stems from that was making my mum really ill. The anger, the frustration and the anger Owen had through puberty, that went on, and he grew to resent school, and even though I really thought he enjoyed it at first, he began to resent school. You wake him up for school or college or whatever, and he will kick off, and I mean he will kick off, and he'll start smashing stuff. He'll break doors in the house. He doesn't want to go. He's not happy there anymore. And then it gets to, and if you say that word school, school, you want to school, to him, when you're not meant to, in the evening or on a weekend, he will flip out and eventually slip into a meltdown. Mum decided if he's not happy there now anymore, if he's not happy anymore, it'd be best to take him and pull him out of school, which I agree with as well. I've seen Owen constantly. I see him every week on the weekends, or sometimes in the middle of the week as well. And our relationship has rekindled. It's developed again, especially over the last year.
The last few months have taught me a lot about my brother, and also autism as a whole. It is such an individual condition that there are so many different stories to tell. Everyone will have their own experiences with it. I've come to realise that Owen was lucky to receive the ABA therapy that he did, as so many people on the spectrum today miss out on that amount of support, even if they really need it. I am now more proud of my brother than ever. I consider his autism as just another building block in his personality. Although I have learned a great deal about the condition, and I have become much closer to Owen as a result, there is still so much we don't know about autism. It's such a complex and almost mysterious condition that it truly is a curious case of the human mind.
I wouldn't change my brother for the world. I honestly wouldn't. He's absolute angel, and this whole process has been a blessing. It's been tough, but it's been a blessing, and I'm lucky to have him.